Honk if you love games about avian migration. Hi, it's Ryan from Knights Around the Table. Here's how you play f***ers. That's weird. Here's how you play f***ers. Here's how you play this game. You and your friends play groups of snow geese racing across wintry climes as the temperature drops, bound for sunnier skies. You'll travel by constructing a tableau of cards shaped like a flying V. The player whose geese fly the furthest, the fastest, wins the game. Everything you see here comes with the base game except this neoprene playmat, which is a lovely little add-on. I'll be playing with the mat because I'm fancy. You begin the game with a handful of 5 cards. A single terrain card sits at the left edge of the 10-card play area, with more terrain cards up here, along with a selection of additional geese cards you can acquire. This is the shape of your tableau. You'll eventually have 1 lead bird at the front and up to 3 more birds on the 2 different branches of your V. On your turn, you play one of your cards to this tableau. You have to follow on from what's already there, so if you don't have a lead bird yet, well, that's where you put your first card. On your next turn, when you already have a lead bird, you can place your next one either here or here. The next turn after that, you can place your next bird here or here, and so on. Each bird card usually has one of 5 actions up here in the corner. Some birds have a landscape icon below that, and some have a bonus action at the bottom that we'll look at in a bit. When you first place a goose in your tableau, you can activate its action. And then you fill your hand back up to 5 cards by choosing a new goose from the face-up display, and then flip out another card to replace it. Play then passes to your left. Here are the 5 actions and what they do. When you place a goose in your tableau and use the fly action, you get to potentially move your token along the terrain pathway. But we need to jet ahead to a point later in the game for this to make more sense. Say your tableau eventually looks like this. You plunk down a goose with the fly action on it. Well, that lets you start from your lead bird and choose a branch, either this one or this one. You collect the little terrain icons as you go along. So if we chose this branch, our flight path would be forest, lake, mountain. If we chose this branch, it would be forest, field. For every card in front of your token that has a terrain type matching your flight path in that order, you can move your bird along the track. So if you chose the forest, lake, mountain side of the V, you could move to this forest, but since the next terrain doesn't have a lake on it, well, you couldn't move any further, even if there's a lake way over here. Well, that's why it makes more sense to choose this path instead. You get to move to forest, field. The next card is a mountain, but you don't get to move your token any further because mountain isn't the next icon in your flight path. You chose the forest field branch of your V, so your flight stops on the field. At the beginning of the game, if you played this bird with a fly action and a forest terrain, and the next terrain card isn't forest, well, your token's not going anywhere. Some terrain cards have multiple terrain types on them, giving you more options when you fly. You only have to match one of the terrain types on a card to fly through it. In fact, the first terrain card on the table has to have 2 or more terrain types on it to give everyone a fighting chance. Note that some bird cards have terrain icons on the bottom next to some binoculars. We'll talk about how those work shortly. Playing a navigate symbol lets you choose one of the 3 face-up terrain cards and place it in the next available slot along the path, and then you replace the card from the deck. The GRAZE action lets you prune your tableau by removing 1 goose card from it and placing it in the discard pile. Thematically, that goose leaves the V to land on the ground and snack on some ribeye steak or whatever geese eat. You can remove the card you just played or any other card in your V. Additionally, the GRAZE action lets you remove any other card in your tableau with that GRAZE symbol on it, either up here or down here. So in this tableau, if you played this GRAZE card, you could get rid of any card you like, and then get rid of any or all of these cards with the GRAZE icon on them. Here, we've decided to keep this goose with a GRAZE symbol on the table. But why would you want to get rid of cards to begin with? Well, if you ever fill up your tableau so that it has a lead bird and 3 birds in each of the branches of the V, your goose is cooked. If that last bird you played can't help you remove any cards, you've essentially gone bust and your flight is over. You don't want that to happen, so GRAZE buys you a stay of execution. If you remove a card from either branch, snug up the other cards to reform your V. If you remove your lead bird, we'll pick either the top or bottom branch and slide the cards over in order to reform. Playing a bird with the swap action lets you pick any 2 birds And that choice doesn't have to include the bird card you just played, and have them change places. As you know, geese flying in V formation like to trade out their positions in order to conserve energy, and you've retained this factoid in your brain because you're probably a big nerd. The lead action lets you re-trigger your lead bird as if you just played it. You can also trigger the bonus actions on the card you just played, and the bonus actions on your lead bird as well. So what are those bonus actions all about? Well, this pair of binoculars is called the identify icon. When you play a bird, if you can spot at least this many of this type of bird in your tableau, you get to avail yourself of this bonus action. If you see a slash, it means you can do this or this. So we lay this card down. It's a yellowish juvenile with an Identify 3 icon on it. That means that if you have 3 or more of these juveniles in your tableau, including the card that you just played, you can take either a bonus fly action or a bonus navigate action. If you qualify for a bird's bonus action, well, you can take it either before or after the bird's main action. As I mentioned, bonus actions stack with the lead action. If you played this card and spotted these 3 yellowish juveniles, well, you could take this fly action, picking a branch and ripping along it to move your token across the path. As long as the bird doesn't leave the table while you're taking your actions, you're good. Then you can activate this lead icon. We look at the bird and it has a spot 2 bonus action. So if we see 2 or more of these white-headed mature snow geese in our tableau, we can additionally take either a navigate or fly action. This kind of double bonus action thing only really applies if you use a lead action. Once you play a bird, you evaluate its bonus action. If you can't spot that many of the same bird, well, you can't take the bonus. And then that's essentially done. You don't have to think about it anymore because you can't ever activate that bird's bonus or main actions on any successive turn. Unless, of course, you manage to graze or swap that bird into the lead position and use a lead action to re-trigger it later on. The only tricky thing going on in this game is this type of bonus action, which shows an identify icon and 1 or more terrain icons. When you play a card like this, you might think, oh, well, I get to spot this many of this type of bird and then move my token. But no, this terrain bonus only comes into effect when you use the fly action. So if I play this bird with this fly action and I pick a branch, well, normally I'd string these icons together and that's my flight path. But along the way, I can evaluate the spot bonus on this card. If I spot this many of these birds, well, then its terrain icons get included in my flight path. You don't have to move your token as far as you're able to. If you so choose, you can stop short along your flight path. And there's a reason why you might want to do that. It's because life isn't all perfect for snow geese, on account of the fact that they are delicious. Some terrain cards have these encounter icons on them that affect the composure of your tableau. While these encounters sound bad, well, they can often help you shake things up in your V and fly farther than you ever could before. When you fly, if your token passes through a piece of terrain with one of these encounter icons on it, well, you ignore it. But if your token stops on a terrain with an encounter icon, you're subject to its effects. Stopping on a terrain with a fox means a predator snacks on one of your snow geese. Pick a card in your tableau and send it off to meet its maker. Or its eater, I guess. This helps you thin out your tableau so you don't reach that 7-card limit and go bust. The eagle encounter lets you discard all of the juveniles in your tableau. The juveniles are the gray snow geese and the yellowish snow geese. These other 2 are both adults. Don't worry about remembering that, even if you are a big nerd. Well, this is a prototype. Your copy will have these handy little baby birdie icons to mark the juveniles. So the eagle attacks, and you discard all of your juveniles, reforming your V as before. Now you have more slots where you can place cards to keep from going bust. Stopping on a piece of terrain with the wind icon pushes your token 1 card ahead along the path to the terrain type of your choice on the next card. And yes, if that pushes you into a piece of terrain with another encounter icon on it, well, you resolve that encounter. Stopping on a decoy means that a hunter shoots a gun and startles your birds. You have to scoop up your whole tableau, shuffle it, and then place your geese back down in a random order. Flip them all over to see your new tableau. If you stop on a terrain card on a piece of terrain that doesn't have an encounter icon, but another portion of the card does have an encounter, well, you don't get to resolve the encounter. So this fox icon only resolves if you flew to the field portion of the card instead of the forest. When one player reaches the end of the track at the 10th terrain card, that triggers the end of the game. All other players get one more turn to try to catch up. If anyone uses the navigate action, new terrain cards can be tacked on past the end, lengthening the path. So it's possible on that final turn that a player overshoots the game end triggering player, securing a victory. If 2 or more players are tied for the win, the player with the most geese in their tableau wins. If players are still tied, whoever has the most of a single type of geese wins. If there's still a tie, all tied players share in the victory. And now you're ready to play Flockers!
Did you just watch that whole thing? Oh, hey! To 100% this video, click the badge to subscribe, and then click the bell to get notifications when I've got new stuff.